send me a message and I will let our translator know. If not, well, then we can start. Voor de mensen in het Nederlands, als er iemand is die graag vertaling zou hebben, omdat de talk in het Nederlands is, in het Engels, sorry, laat dan even weten. Je kan gewoon een berichtje naar mij sturen, zo in direct message. En dan zetten we de vertaling aan. Ik zal heel eventjes wachten. I don't think there's anybody. Let's check the chat. No. Okay. So let's start. I'll start off with a small introduction to who the speaker of this talk is. It's new. Yeah, for me, he's in my right upper corner, but I don't think he's that for everybody. But yeah, I'll start off with an introduction and then the stage is for Neil. And then afterwards, there's time for some questions and you can always stay to chat. So yeah, that's the planning of the evening. But first, the introduction. So Neil is actually from South Africa. He's a 7th generation. He is from Cape Town. But he lives in Cambridge right now. He has a master's degree in process engineering from the Stellenbosch University. And well, I already mentioned that he lives in Cambridge, which is in the UK right now. And there he leads a team that develops AI solutions for the mining industry. He loves to read. He's a writer, actually, and he is a lover of the outdoors. And he also enjoys making music with his wife. So that's a small introduction to Neil. And tonight he's going to talk about the point of our life. So if you're curious, stay tuned. And Neil, the stage is yours, so you can share your screen.
A light topic for Tuesday evening. Let me share my screen. Let's get this around here. Okay, great. It's great to be with you all this evening. Thanks for the introduction, Esther. I want to immediately kick us off with the question, and that is, how are you doing these days? More specifically, how much hope would you say that you have these days? People are struggling around the world. According to the World Health Organization, a quarter of the European population battles with some form of anxiety and depression. People of all ages are taking their lives. I don't know if you can see the stats on your screen, but in Belgium alone, 20,000 people have taken their own lives in the last decade. People are struggling. And I don't know about you, but it seems that something is wrong and that we have a crisis of hope. I think on some level, each one of us is struggling with hope, with a sense of direction, especially during those quiet moments where life seems to take the wind out of our sails and we're forced to stillness. The passing of a loved one, the end of a beautiful time or season, saying goodbye to friends. These things can stir in us the question, where am I going? What am I doing? And for you students, this can even come to you as you stare over the vast ocean of possibilities before you. I like this quote by John Eldridge where he says, most of us live in a fog. It's like life is a movie we arrived in 20 minutes late. You know, something important seems to be going on, but we can't quite figure out the story. We don't know what part we're supposed to play or what the plot is. I can definitely relate. And so I want to ask you tonight, which story would you say most people believe we're in? Especially think about Europe, Belgium, and Antwerp. Increasingly, the story of our time is that you and I are the product of a series of fortunate events. chance. Moreover, that there is nothing more to life and reality than the natural laws and forces that we can measure. As the story goes, you and I are merely material beings. We are in this vast space on this ball called Earth, the well-studied debris of an unexplainable explosion. You and your loved ones are a cosmic accident, a mere blip in space and time. And when you die, since you are merely material, you stop existing, just like everything and everyone else you ever loved. Oof. Nobody will spell this out for you because we are even rejecting the premise of absolute truth these days, the idea of an objective story. As William Shakespeare wrote in his Macbeth play, all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, then is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. We will get back to this. I would like to share a bit about my own story for the benefit of this talk. I grew up in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, South Africa, in a mostly happy family of 4. That's me at the back. I was a shy, curious guy who liked mathematics, music, and daydreaming. I used to tell my brother lots of stories that I made up on the spot. But I wasn't great at making friends. Rejection and loneliness is something that defined much of my school years. I was the guy that liked class time more than break time because break times were all about looking like I'm not alone. Weekends were family time, not time with friends. And as a teenager, I dreaded being asked this question on Monday. Oh, what did you do over the weekend? Over time, though, probably in my early high school years, I realized that I could somehow earn people's respect by being good at things. I found that doing well at academics not only meant that people noticed me and even looked up to me, but they would also engage me on it. Hey Neil, how did you answer question 5? Can you explain this to me? Somewhere unbeknownst to me at the time, I decided to be the smart guy. I worked hard at it and got the badges and the stripes that come with it. There were also other things that I realized helped me get noticed or fit in, like playing in my high school first hockey team. On Fridays, we would wear these big puffy hockey jackets, standing out from the crowd at school. And I suddenly found myself being part of the cool crowd. I started working out in the gym, and soon I realized that a better physique helps me earn more respect and a few extra looks from the girls. And towards the end of my school years, I even started writing poems, taking part in online philosophical debates. I was burying myself in my dad's business books, believing that I might be the world's next big thing. I was becoming the smart guy, the strong guy, even the deep guy. I was wearing the badges. I was getting their respect. I was becoming someone that matters. And I would like us to pause here. And I would like to ask you, what do your badges look like? What's pinned to the jacket of your life? How are you trying to define yourself? The question might sound a bit like, or the statement might sound a bit like, I am valuable because. And I found that sometimes telling someone else our own story can help us see ourselves more clearly. Something about our performance-driven, I do, therefore I am world is birthed out of the heart of the predominant story or philosophy of our time. If I merely happen to be a momentary part of the debris of a random explosion, there isn't really any way to back the belief that we are, in fact, valuable. And I'm not commenting on evolution here. I'm quite a fan of evolution. I'm actually just talking about this the idea of this unguided random we happen to be here. The value of something is not self-evident. The definition, the purpose, the value of every single thing needs to be defined by something or someone outside of it. We know this to be true in our lives. Think about a diamond. A diamond is super valuable, but if some alien were to come here and pick up the diamond, they would have no clue of the value that we ascribe to it. Or think about a tennis ball. This alien might pick up a tennis ball and look at it and might be able to deduce certain properties from it, but this alien would not know the purpose for which this tennis ball was made. Only the people that made it and are intending to use it can define the tennis ball. And so if a value isn't self-evident and our natural world is all that there is, then there's no way at all to say that our world is valuable at all. Not to mention that it or any of us in it has any point. Let's make this a bit more personal with a question. What is a human being? Who can tell us who we are? Can you and I say that we matter? And if there's no absolute truth, what else can we do but try to define ourselves? Back to my own story. I left my parents' house and I went to university. The labels with which I defined myself at school were shattered as I was confronted with people smarter, stronger, and wiser than me. I was confronted with the thinness of the masks that I created, even to myself. There was a real me underneath who was deeply confused, more than confused. That first year of university, I found myself plummeted first into anxiety and then into depression. By the time classes started, I was so filled with anxiety that my heart was constantly racing and I couldn't sleep. That later turned into an hopelessness and fear that I can best describe as a constant heaviness and darkness over me that literally made my eyes sensitive to light. My family was confused, my friends were few, and my psychologist was concerned about where things might be heading. I would call it hell. I was scared I couldn't understand the point. If everything and everyone will pass into oblivion, into nothingness, what the hell is going on here? What's the point? I wrestled with this darkness for a year. And I now really believe that nothing is as excruciating as a person grappling with who they are. And I'm sure there are some of you here that can relate. They might be struggling with some of this. Perhaps you too feel out of place in this world. During my wrestling with depression, I came face to face with the fact, with this awkward point that we mentioned a bit earlier, that the purpose of something or someone can only be determined by someone external to it. I can analyze the hell out of something, but in isolation, it tells me nothing about what it is. I realized that a self-defined life doesn't make sense. A self-defined life doesn't make sense. I like how Dustin Kendrew puts it in his song, It's Not Enough. I want to read it for us. Though all the wealth of men was mine to squander, and towers of ivory rose beneath my feet, were palaces of pleasure mine to wander, the sum of it would leave me incomplete. Though every soul would hold my name in honor, and truest love would always be by my side, my praises sung by grateful sons and daughters, my soul would never still be satisfied. It's not enough. I could walk the world forever till my shoes were filled with blood, but it's not enough. Though I could live for all to lift them higher, or spend centuries seeking light within, though I indulged my every dark desire, exhausting every avenue of sin, I could right all wrongs and ravage everything beneath the sun. It's not enough. It's not enough to make me whole. On the evening of the 31st of December 2009, it was New Year's Eve, I was sitting on the beach. People around me were celebrating the new year, setting off fireworks, giggling, drinking champagne. People were making out with the nearest guy or girl. And I remember sitting there in the darkness. My brother was next to me. And I realized that I had come to the end of myself. Looking over the waves rolling in through the darkness, I spoke to God, the only one I realized who could really help me. You see, I've been praying a few times before this, but this particular evening I was begging. I told him that I tried to live my life on my own terms and I can't. I've tried to define myself, but I can't. I can't do this. I told God, if you take this darkness, this heaviness away from me, I will live the life you have for me instead. I sat there quietly hoping that someone had heard me. The next morning, 1st of January 2010, I got up as usual. Stumbling to the kitchen, I said good morning to my parents, started making some porridge when it hit me. That darkness over me, that feeling I've become so accustomed to over the recent year, has lifted. It was gone. Something had happened. It was a bit like that, the feeling you have when you take off a heavy backpack after days of hiking or walking with it. I've spent the years since that day learning what actually happened. The anxiety and depression that left me, the anxiety and depression left me for good. Something shifted deep within me. Looking back now, more than a decade later, I can tell you what happened. Yes, I believe that the God I prayed to listened and freed me not only from anxiety and depression, but he defined me. God saved me and brought me to life by defining me. In the Bible, there's a guy called Peter who was one of the disciples of Jesus, and he wrote that Jesus calls us out of the darkness into his marvelous light. And another disciple of Jesus wrote in another book, in Jesus was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. What happened in me happens to people all over the world. People tell stories across the globe about how their lives have been radically transformed by this person called Jesus. I'd woken up and realized that I am not a cosmic accident. I was intentionally made by someone who loved me. And so were my loved ones and all the people on this earth. An ancient Jewish prophet, Jeremiah, wrote of God saying, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." You and I have been loved into being exactly as we are. We matter. Your life matters. All lives matter. Black lives matter. We can say truthfully and we can say this truthfully and objectively. Human rights and human dignity make sense because we know our value, because you and I can do anything before you and I can do anything to try and earn our place. And as you get to know the story of Jesus, you learn that he is God that entered his own story and took our brokenness on him to reconcile us with the one who made us. He paid a dear price for us. We matter deeply. And so, according to the gospel, the good news of Jesus, there is a point to your life. To answer the title of this talk, there is a point to your life. because you live in a story and you have your unique place in it. It's a story that not only makes sense and allows us to live a coherent life, but it is objectively true whether you believe in it or not. And this God life is one that doesn't end. When you look at the Bible, you learn that Jesus has overcome death so that this mocking voice of the temporary life can be made still and replaced by the voice of a loving Father saying, I love you. I loved you before I made you. You are my beloved son or daughter. It's so incredibly powerful because it's true. When you know who you are, or at least that you matter, it changes everything. Nothing is as powerful as awakening to the story that you're in. And so before we close, I briefly want to show you how this changes things. It's one of the best ways that I have been able to explain what has shifted and changed in my own life. It's called this cycle of works and the cycle of grace. Let me explain this to you. So the first one here is the cycle of works. So you can kind of works counterclockwise. This is the way of the world. This is the I do, therefore I am productivity-driven life. It starts with doing. It starts with I am what I do. And so my defining myself by doing sustains me. So I get significance from what I do. I am because of what I do. And this sustains me. I get energy from the fact that when I look in the mirror, I can tell myself, this is who you are. And because you matter because of this and this and this. And this defining myself also means that hopefully when I do enough, people accept me, people validate me, people love me. This is so familiar in our world. It's in the air we breathe. When you go on social media, when you look around you, this is the world we are in. I first do something. I need to prove my worth so that I am significant, so that I can draw energy from it, so that I can be accepted by others. In contrast with this, the life that I woke into more than a decade ago is what I can call the cycle of grace. It shows a bit of the upside down world of God, where it starts with acceptance, it flips it around the other way. It starts with God's unconditional love. It starts with being accepted by God before I do anything to earn it. And from that place of knowing that I'm loved, knowing that I matter, God sustains me. That knowledge sustains me. He's the life that is flowing through me, unearned. I'm significant. So his life sustains me, and I'm significant because of what he has done for me, making me, saving me, pulling me closer day by day. And then the doing is so different from the doing of the works. Everything that I do comes from this place. I can love others without looking for anything in return because I know that I'm loved by God. I hope you can feel the difference here. It's super transformative. There's a guy, the Apostle Paul, that writes about this process in the Bible. He says, "For by grace you have been saved when you believed." You can't take credit for this. It's a gift from God. Salvation is not a result of any good thing that we've done, so that no one can boast about it. We are the poetry of God, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. So, I believe that you and I matter. Is there a more beautiful truth? If you want to make a difference in this world, it starts with believing in a foundation that affirms the value and the dignity of people, of nature, of everything. This is holy ground. You and I are sacred. Hear Jesus' own words in this invitation where he says, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burnt out on trying? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you will learn how to live freely and lightly. And so I want to extend an invitation to you. If you want to stop running, stop this self-defining life, there are two things that I think that I would want to put before you this evening. The first is, in a quiet moment, speak to God, approach him in prayer, whatever that might look like. Some of you here might be feeling like you are at the end of yourselves. You're done with labels and masks. And I would want to invite you, if not this evening, somewhere in this week, make time for just chatting to God before you switch off the light tonight. Speak to him and talk to him about where you're at, about your labels, bring it to him. And invite him to define you. Invite him to show you how he loves you and to show you who you are. And then in addition to that, consider starting a journey with a community of faith. You were not made to walk on your own. Walking with Jesus is not a solo walk. Reach out and get connected. There are a few people on this call from Ichthus, Antwerp, and I think it would be very good to reach out to some of them. We are beings of habit, and we need to place ourselves in a space where we do life with people looking to grow towards God. And last point, I realized that, of course, you might be wondering, so if there is a point to my life, what is it? And that's not the point of this talk, but I thought it might be good to quickly touch on that before we open for questions. So I would say this idea of what's the point of my life, there are two parts to this, a general answer and a specific one. The general one is when people ask Jesus how they should live. In the Bible, it's called the law, but basically they asked Jesus, how should we live? He summarized it as follows. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength, and love the people around you as you love yourself. So why love? Well, I think he will tell us when we're ready to hear. I sometimes think God operates on a need-to-know basis. Maybe we can't understand the full picture, but love looks like healing, liberating people, seeing where people are oppressed, seeing where people are stuck, seeing where people might be stuck in a self-defining life, and loving them out of that. So love is there's this last quote I like, which says, when you're not sure what to say or do, ask what love requires of you. But then there's a specific part to it. What's the specific point of my life? And I think the safest thing to say there is, ask God to tell you who you are. Only he can do that. Only your creator, your Father, can do that, can tell you who you are. Approach him in prayer. Be open to it being a lifelong conversation. It's an unfolding, and it's sometimes we think we want an answer, but I think in intimacy with God, he reveals those things to us bit by bit as we are able to receive that. And then also, sometimes God brings us to the end of ourselves. We might be good at running from him or numbing ourselves. And so if you are finding yourself to some extent at the end of yourself, and suffering is something that you are deeply wondering about, I would also want to refer you to Chris's talk. I think it was the first Antwerp, first Mission Month talk. I would invite you to have a look at that. So with that, I would want to invite you to share some questions, but maybe let me quickly pray for us. I wanted to invite you to pray, but maybe let me follow my own advice first and quickly pray for us. So, Lord, thank you that you are with us. Thank you that you loved us into being. Thank you that we can know that we matter because you made us. Lord, I pray that you will take for each of us that are here tonight, take our hands, Lord, and show us where we are, who we are. Some of us are running, some of us are numbing, and I pray, Lord, that you will reveal to us where we are trying to make something of ourselves and running from you in the process. Some of us, Lord, are in a tough spot, might be lonely, anxious, depressed. I pray that you will reveal to those among us, Lord, that this is not a lost case, and it's not our own fault when we feel like this, but I pray that those people among us will approach you. I pray that your light will shine into their lives and drive away the darkness. Thank you that you love us and help us to love others as you have loved us first. Amen. I'd like to invite questions. Anything? Yeah. Esther, do you want to facilitate this bit?
Yes, I do. So if any of you have any questions, please, you can, well, we're a small group, I think. Yannick, can they unmute or can't they? Okay, so you can just unmute, or if you don't want to do that, you can just send me the question or send it in the chat. Feel free to. And Neil, thank you for this wonderful talk. It was really powerful. Thank you for sharing your story. It's really nice. Let me check the live stream as well.
Neil, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, Chris, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I really enjoyed your talk, and I'm just wondering, it feels as if one of the things we've all gone through, which you talked about, was life, but another thing that we're all going through right now is this pandemic and lockdown. And I just wondered if you've got any ways that you can speak into the specifics of lockdown and ways in which, for you at least, faith has made a difference in that.
Wow. I will speak completely honestly. I think in a world where the main currency is go go go, or do something to make something of yourself, stopping can feel like death, or slowing down can feel like death, especially as life flows past us and we can feel stuck. And so I think faith has allowed me to realize that since I am not what I do, I don't stop being myself when I'm forced to sit on my sofa or my couch and stay put, or veg a bit more, or whatever that might look like. I'm still valuable as I don't do anything. But also, super frankly, we are all, I think death stares us in the face when we need to stop. Like, people pass away around us. I know I spoke to a colleague yesterday whose grandmother passed away, who she can't be there. Like, she couldn't say goodbye. but we went a bit deeper into the conversation, and she said like, well, she actually believes that in Jesus, and that there's more to this life than everything just stopping at death, and that hope kind of, there's a deeper hope, this kind of that allows us to have hope beyond the pain of this life. But also, even though a year passes, a year passing with lockdown can feel like, whoa, like what percentage of my life just went past into nothingness? How much percentage of my life did I just lose? But if we read the Bible and we believe the gospel, we see that if life doesn't end, that percentage of goes to zero. Like it's a small blip in infinity, basically, that I've lost. So I think, yeah, I'm probably a bit nerdy in how I think about things, being an engineer, but yeah, that's kind of part of where I get hope, is that I keep mattering even though I sit still, and also the part that's lost to lockdown is negligible compared to the rest of life. And also, well, on a more practical level, you can keep loving people in new ways, and so that's also been fun. Kind of, yeah, I agree. I hope that answers your question, at least in part.
Okay, there was another question from Yannick. How can you live without trying to impress others or to do things to be seen by others? I mean, he wants to know how you came out of the cycle to try to live for others.
Well, I'm not out of it. Before this talk, I had to say, Lord, this is not about me. This is about you. So I do not think that you ever get away from it. I think it's a daily journey of recognizing that it's not about you. I think there's something in our human nature that wants to wrestle back control over our lives. So it's a daily thing. Yeah, but definitely, I think as we want to impress others because of this kind of this hole in ourselves, this yearning to be loved and yearning to be seen, to have witnesses in our lives. And I think what God does over a period of time, He can do it in an instant, but also over a period of time, is He heals us, He meets us in those places, and as those parts of us that want to be seen and loved are being satisfied by Him, and honestly by His community, which we call the church, but loved by Him, that need to go outside and that hunger to go outside and see the validation in people's eyes, when that becomes less and less because you are more satisfied in Him. But yeah, it's definitely a daily walk, and I think that's part of why it's important to be part of a community of people doing this together, that you're surrounded by people that remind you whenever you kind of drift into this place of trying to impress others or trying to win over, like whatever that might look like for you. You've people around you that know know the real you and can remind you of who you are, and that you are loved fundamentally. So, yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, guys?
Erin has a question, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for telling your story so honestly, and even the story of this last year. I think it's important to hear. You talked about how important it is to see your life in terms of that bigger story or a bigger narrative. I was wondering if you could talk a little more about what it is about the Christian story or the Christian narrative that was especially meaningful to you. Why that and not another story?
There's actually something I wanted to check here. So the idea of having a coherent story is quite important, because is it true? I think that's the main, like someone once said, the only reason to believe the Christian story is because it's true. And so the combination of the Christian story that covers four things: origin, meaning, morality and destiny. So it is able to tell us where we come from, how we got here, kind of, meaning like what is the overarching narrative, what's the point of all of this, and where are things going. Morality is, it's able to tell us what does good look like. It's able to give us guidance on what we were made for in the first place and what good looks like. And then destiny is able to provide us with a hope of what comes after this, or looking ahead. And so I think from a simply a kind of a cognitive point of view, like there was, I think I often go into a, yeah, I often go into a mini faith crisis every now and again. And I think it's healthy for people to do so. And then I'm reminded of this, that the Christian story is able to capture all of these things. But also, when you look at the Bible and you read about historians and things, there are people that can tell eyewitness accounts of what actually happened. So it's not just also a fairy tale which fits all the corners of life. It's real. It happened in history. We've got good accounts of that. And then obviously that's going beyond the cognitive or the understanding. It works. I think I have had the privilege of walking with people for long enough now to see that its transformation has not just been in my life, but also that it works. Jesus says that when you pray for people, people will be healed. And I've seen healing that I can't explain away in my own ways, on my own. And I've seen how people have been transformed. It's so, yeah, I've seen how people's lives have been changed. How people's characters are just different as soon as they are kind of healed in places that you wouldn't have thought were broken. So I think it's both sound. It's both sound, and it's a solid foundation to build our lives on. But and it also works. In 10 years' time, I'll be able to say much more. But that's what I have so far.
Thank you. Does anybody else has a question, guys? Wait, I see I have a question in the chat. What can you do if you feel like God is not helping you with your anxiety or depression?
Yeah. I think that's also something it was worth mentioning, and that was the fact that I'm not saying that all anxiety or depression will be gone in an instant. Like that's my testimony, and I believe God can do it. But He works with each of us and walks with each of us in a unique way. There's one of the people I referenced quoted in the Bible. Paul said he spoke about that he had this thorn in his flesh, or this something in himself that hurt him. And he asked God, what, can you please take this away from me? Please take this thorn away from me. And God's response was, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is perfect in you, in your weakness. And so we don't understand everything. And again, I would refer people to Chris's talk on suffering. I think it's a very good exposition on suffering. But yeah, I would definitely say, looking back, well, don't lose heart. You're not doing anything wrong. I sometimes also think that people that are gifted in specific ways by God, sometimes in the world, those gifts can come across as weaknesses, like people having especially a sensitivity to other people, where they're at, people that can feel this can sound new agey, but can feel the atmosphere of a place, or can discern what's going on in a place, when that can come across as oversensitivity. And so I would say you're not broken, and you can be healed. trust God, and but also find people that can journey, people that you can trust and journey with you through this, and especially people that I would, the community of faith, where you can just be yourself and share your story, and where people can pray for you. That's been like the months leading up to my own being freed from depression was filled with people that prayed for me. And I would definitely say, so don't isolate yourself. Surround yourself with people that can love on you, people that you can trust. But definitely, I think Chris's talk on suffering is worth a watch. If you find yourself struggling with those questions of why God, why are you not fixing this in the moment? We don't have all the answers, but I know that God is good and that He loves us. Anyway, I don't know, Chris, if you want to say anything about that, since you gave the talk the first round.
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Let's see in the chat. I don't have. Maybe. No, for now, there are no new questions. Anybody in the group? I have a question of my own. So you talk about, if you feel like this, go look for a community that supports you. But what would you recommend for people who can't have, or who don't have such a community, or who are struggling to find such a community? And especially in these times, it's not as easy to find a church. Or what if it seems like there's no one available, just, from the Christian society to talk to you? What would you recommend for people? Oh, only recommend sounds so stupid, but you get my question, I think.
Yeah. I think start with the people that you know. Just still the message coming through. Ichtes, I don't even know if I pronounce it correctly, but start with the people that you know. And definitely I mean when I talk about community of faith in my life, that's been church, but I know the word church means different things for many people and evokes different feelings. And so I think among us we've got a few people that really have a heart for connecting people, and so I think this is a good place to start. I don't know if you guys want to share contact details or how people can get a hold of you, or how you think whether they should message you on Facebook, or I think that this would be a good moment to share that game plan.
Yes. I think I'm gonna give the word to Eileen real quick if she wants to give some explanation about this, because she's our contact person for that, actually.
Yes, indeed. So indeed we have a form that Yannick will now share in the stream, and now I hope he's smiling, but it will be all right. But there's a link to a form where if you want to, you can leave your contact details. If you just want to talk about anxiety or depression, we will contact you. But also if you want to know a bit more about faith, about Jesus, you can just fill in the form. Even though you don't want to be contacted, you can still fill in the form because it's also a feedback form. So if you want to say something about the talk, then we also would like to have your feedback. But we're always available, even if someone is watching this outside the talk, like not even in this year or this month, it's okay. You can still contact us, and we are always available for a good conversation. So
Yeah, I would like, my wife and I moved to England a year ago, right before lockdown, and when we got here, we didn't know anyone, and we just happened. We asked the one person we knew here, hey, like, is there kind of a church or something we could get connected to, and she hooked us up with the church here. We joined a small group. Like, you don't have to, like, sometimes joining a kind of a small group of people who you can trust is a good place to start. And so I think Eileen would, and her team would be really keen to see that you start slotting in, and yeah, it does make quite a difference, and it's possible even during this lockdown times.
Thank you. Is there anybody else with a question? No? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. If you want to stay and have a chat with us, it's totally possible. Just to talk about the talk. If you have an opinion about it and you want to share it, please do so. We're actually very open to that. But if you want to go, of course, you can. We're not keeping you here. There's another talk this Thursday, and it's about the reliability of the Bible. And since the Bible is the big book for Christians, and it's what we all base our lives on, it might be very nice to hear about it from our point of view, to see why is it reliable or isn't it reliable. So check out our Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, where you can find all the details. And have a nice evening. Have a blessed evening.
Yeah, even if you sorry, just quickly, if you we will be happy to stick around for a few more extra minutes if you have even like a super controversial question to ask. I think nothing is off limits. We'll be happy to chat. But otherwise, I would like to recommend, like, fill in this form that Yannick has posted. I think it's, yeah, the worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't work out. The best thing that can happen is you slot into a new community and you find your life transformed. So I would be, do it. Anyway, great to see you all. Thanks for coming.